off to our president, Roderick Walker. Good morning, Roderick.
Good morning, Matt. Thanks for the introduction and welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to the coffee talk we have here this morning and workshop. Good morning, Madam Registrar. It's a pleasure to have you back with us this chilly Wednesday, November morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me in. I like season changes. So
good stuff. Good stuff. That's why we reside in the great city of Philadelphia here. We have
yes.
our seasons and it's nice to be a part of this. But don't want to spend too much time this morning with small talk. We want to get to really what matters. And we want to thank you for this workshop that you are putting on today. And we really appreciate your time and you spending it with us this November morning. That being said, I'm going to get out of your way because you have a tremendous amount of information to share with the room this morning, and we want to jump right in. So I know Matt has made Tatiana the host to share the slides and things like that. So please take it away. And again, thank you for joining us this morning.
Again, thank you for the invite. Again, my name is Tracey Gordon. I'm the Registrar of Wills and Clerk of Orphans Court here in Philadelphia. And I'm delighted to come back to you all to give you all a training that we came up with during my administration, basically to educate people about my role as your Registrar of Wills and just get you all as realtors familiar with a lot of the processes because just learning, just for my last 4 years here, I'm learning that hardly anyone in the city of Philadelphia knew about the Registrar of Wills. And if you did learn about the Registrar of Wills, it was at the time that somebody died in your family and you were trying to get access to their assets. And many of the times is access to the real estate. And unfortunately, this has become a big problem here in Philadelphia because many people just believe that there's an automatic transfer of wealth. They don't believe that there's any legal paperwork involved. And a lot of times that hinders the process of transferring the real estate from one title person to the next. It hinders you all from even selling the property for them. Many of these properties, people just want to sell, or or even in the will, estate sell it and divide it, and then they come to you, and then you're hit with this barrier. And so these series and this particular curriculum that I've come up with, which is public, is to not only help individuals understand the laws and the rules governing transferring wealth, but it's going to assist you all to understand when your client comes to you and they believe they own a property, you know where to direct them. You know how to direct them, and it can be speedy, hopefully speedy as possible. As a direct result of people not understanding that legal process, which is called probate, we are sitting on between, according to Pew Charitable Trust, 10 to 14,000 tangled titles, which is when they calculated in particular areas that they calculated $1.1 billion worth of debt capital. And you wonder why we continue to be, the fourth largest, poorest city in the country. And I believe that's one of the reasons, because we don't understand about real estate transaction and how when somebody died, there's legal processes that should have been done prior to the death and should be done once the person dies. For instance, like people still believe that the power of attorney still has power after the person's death. After the person's death, the power of attorney, their responsibility cease to exist. That's when the executor comes into place. So during my tenure, and this is my last month, and I put together a lot of educational programs. I made a lot of videos. If you go on any search engine, any social media search engine, and put the hashtag PHLROW in, you'll see I did all kind of training courses, skits and everything, so we can help you all and help the citizens of Philadelphia move forward with the transition of their wealth. Within the next 25 years, there's going to be 76 trillion, and let's see, $1 trillion worth of generational wealth passing down from the baby boomers to generational X. And we're not prepared. The baby boomers aren't prepared because, they haven't made any wills or trusts, and the younger people don't understand, they just believe that because they are blood next of kin, that they automatically inherit property. And so I put together this course, and I hope you all enjoy it. I'm ready now, Tatiana. Thank you.
Okay, so what do I press? I'm not sure.
No,
I guess somebody.
My Tatiana.
Can somebody else do it?
No, not you, Tatiana. I'm talking about Tatiana Mullen.
Okay.
From my staff, we have a PowerPoint. Are they able to?
1 second here.
Roger, is Tatiana available to start the PowerPoint? One second, I'll call, guys. I'm sorry about that. Give us a minute.
Is that me?
Okay, she's just getting access. She's getting ready to come on.
Because I just got on after a half. So she's joining from another computer.
Okay. Well, I'll just finish talking. I don't want to leave a lot of dead air. So one of the things I'm doing now in the Register of Wills, the first time in history, is I'm actually in the process of having wills digitized and the historical wills preserved. And we're having a big event December 6th, Wednesday, December 6th. So if anybody want to come to that event so they can see some of these authentic wills that date back to the 1600s. We have wills of Benjamin Franklin, William Penn, John Rittenhouse, John Wanamaker, Angelo Bruno. We preserved a lot of those wills, and we're going to put them on display. So if you all text me, tracy.gordon@phila.gov, and would like to be invited, I would love to see some of you all here. And you'll be amazed at a lot of the real estate that they had acquired during that time, and these handwritten wills, or what you call holographic wills, beautiful calligraphy. The younger generation can't read them because they took cursive out of the school, something that we need to fight for to state that, but you all will be amazed. We have Princess Grace of Monaco's will. I just had that preserved. William Still will. He was one of the abolitionists. Here we go.
All right.
All right, good. I have a lot. I can run my mouth, so let's just start the wills. Plan, prepare, protect. Plan your estate, prepare your heirs to protect your generational wealth. And so I wanted to let you all know that we are a state agency. It's not a city agency. The city just approves our budget. And we fall under the 1st Judicial District of Pennsylvania. And our main mission is to preside over the protection of generational wealth. Let me just tell you something about Philadelphia County. There are 67 counties. We are a city of first class. And we sent $107 million to the state last year at estate and inheritance tax. That's $107 million. We send more than any other county in the state. And we, when people always say, oh, city, they always talk about crime and, the trash and all that. But the land and real estate here is worth quite a bit. You can go to the next one. Thank you. Back. You skipped the other one. Thank you. So here's what we do in the Register of Wills. We validate the will. So when people don't know this, They believe that, I had somebody call me yesterday and they said, you know, my wife died and I want to know, did she register the will? And I know it sounds like register of wills, but in the state of Pennsylvania, you do not register the will before your death. We don't see your will until after you die. So this is the state of Pennsylvania. However, if you was in the state of Maryland, they actually have a process where you register the will before you die. And in Atlanta, Georgia, or the state of Georgia is an option. But in the state of Pennsylvania, I don't know why we don't see the will until after you die. So you must let people know where your will is. You must put it in a safe place. We're a collection agency. We collect the inheritance tax. I just told you we just sent $107 million in 1 year to the state. Since I've been in office, it has increased by 37%. Prior to that, we were sending between 60 and 70. Now we're sending over 100 million plus to the state. And I believe that's a direct result in educating people about, you know, the process of transferring their wealth and trying not to avoid to pay inheritance taxes. And we probate the estates, which was just proves the will. So we come in and we prove the will. If the will is authentic, you're in and out of our office in 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes. If it's not authentic, or if there is no will, then you would have to come and come to a hearing room, and we have then request to be the administrator of the estate, so you can get the proper paperwork in the form of what's called a short certificate. So you'll be able to go to the bank and get withdrawal of money, go to the recorder of deeds, which is a totally different office. Many people believe that the register of wills and the recorder of deeds are one and the same. That's two different offices. One is elected to register of wills, and this is where you come get the legal paperwork. And one is appointed by the mayor. And that's where you actually take the short certificate over to get the title change. I just told you all we preserve and protect those records into perpetuity by law. And I also set public policy. I'm also the clerk of orphans court. So I'm not just a register of wills. And that's where we issue and validate marriage licenses, and we preserve and protect marriage licenses. Marriage licenses date back to the 1850s. So actually, if your mother got married here, or your grandmother, your grandfather got married here, we have their marriage record. Frank Sinatra married Ava Gardner here. Sammy Davis Jr. married his fourth wife here. Thurgood Marshall, Supreme Court judge, married his first wife here. So we have a lot of historical marriage records, and we'll have yours, and you can actually trace your genealogy back when you come and look for your parents and grandparents, because they had to put their grandparents and grandparents on that record, and also where they're from. So that's how I was able to figure out that my grandmother or my great grandmother came from South Carolina, as opposed to what we thought Florida. Another thing, we accept filings for court appeals. So any decision that I make, if they don't agree with it or the family don't agree with it, you would come to the fourth floor of my office and file paperwork for an appeal, and then you would appeal it to the orphans courts judges. So those are some of the duties that we do. So when people come to your office and you notice on the title is still in the title of a dead person name, send them to our office. And we'll help them out as best we can. A lot of times people can do it pro se, or they can do it without an attorney. But in some cases where the house may be in a great grandmother's name, and then it's like layers and layers of families, you may want to recommend an attorney to them. Wills, very important. So a will is a document you write during your lifetime, and it distributes your assets upon death. A will is simply a gift that comes to fruition when you die. The will states that this is the last will and testament, and a will transfers your interest, which is the dead person, and assets to the beneficiary that you choose. A will also has to name the executor for it to be a valid will. For when you come bring that will, you have to name who your executor in the case of a male, or executrix in case of a female. Their duty is to take care of all the business. They are to come in, bring the will into our office, so they can get the necessary paperwork to pay off your debt, pay off your inheritance tax, your funeral bill, and then they distribute it based on what you put in your will. You have to be at least 18 years old to make a will. And I always say that you should name an alternative person as your executor or executrix, because they may not be able to find the executor, the one that you name, or that one that you name may decide, like in the case of Aretha Franklin, which I found out that handwritten will was up, the judge upheld it. Her handwritten will that was found. One of the things I'm going down. Okay, thank you. So those are the components of a will. You know, people ask me, do you have to date it? It's not mandatory, but you should. People always ask, should it be 2 witnesses to sign? Not mandatory, but a best practice. They also ask, should there be a notary? Not mandatory, but a best practice. When you have all those components, you can go to the next slide, please, of the will. It's bulletproof. I always tell people that a will is your insurance to protect your generational wealth. You can go back to that last slide before you come back here. So it's definitely for the protection of your generational wealth. It decides where your assets go. That's what the will says. It decides where your assets go. That executor decides who's in charge. And it may not be your oldest child. It may be the youngest child, because maybe the oldest child is messy. It may not be none of your children. It may be your attorney. It may be your sister. It may be your aunt. But you want to trust that person. You want to make sure that person knows, because people come into my office all the time and say, hey, my aunt left me the executrix and I never knew anything about it. I always tell people it's 2 wills made. The one you make and the one the government makes. If you do not prepare the will, the government will determine who your heirs are. And I, in the case of a registered will, have to select who is going to be the administrator. The administrator is the same as the executor as far as roles and duties, except the difference is the executor or executrix, you pick it. The administrator, you're going to leave it into the hands of a registrar, in that case, me. And I think I do a good job, but I think you would do a better job picking who you want to be your administrator. Now, when I say that the the government already made a will for you because they figure you all wasn't going to make it, it's called an intestacy, or you left your estate in an intestate. And then they have to follow the rules of husband and wife. Then it goes down that family tree. Was there any children? If it wasn't any children, and then it goes all the way down to that tree. So when people say they're going to leave you something, hey, mom, put it in writing in a form of a will, because a verbal will does not count. We can move to the next one now. So I've been going around the city talking about components of a holographic will. Holographic means a handwritten will. So a handwritten will, I have approved handwritten wills, but these are the components, right? A handwritten it can be prepared by you, or you can have somebody else write it for you. It's best to have it dated, not mandatory. Again, Aretha Franklin, they were fighting over that estate. She had 2 wills, and the will that was just approved by the judge was the one with the latter date. You have to be, and you have to say that this is my last will and testament. I am of sound mind and not under any undue influence. You have to state that in the will, that hey, no one is pressuring me about what I'm getting ready to put in this will. Specify who the executor is. Again, I told you to get somebody that you trust, somebody that's about business. Sometimes people put percentages that they pay the executor in the will. Just let them know where the original will is. And I would suggest as a recommendation is make a copy. Always make a copy, because sometimes original wills disappear. And then the document has to say, you be very specific who is inheriting this stuff. If you have a son that is William Still, but he's a junior, and then there's a third and a fourth. You want to make sure you say this goes to William Still the third, and this goes to my, you have to be very specific. My daughter, her name gets all my stamp collecting, my pictures, my car, whatever. You have to be very specific, and it has to be signed at the end. That's it. That is a holographic will. Now, I always tell people it's best to have 2 witnesses, and it's best to have it notarized. That's called self-proven affidavit. Remember those 3 words when you go to the attorney. Self-proven affidavit. Making sure you have 2 witnesses and making sure that it's notarized. Therefore, when that will comes in, when your executor brings that will, it will be very, very hard to challenge. It's pretty bulletproof, and then you won't have to go track down the witnesses, et cetera, notary. So some of the documents that you need to probate. And probate is just, prove the will. And probate is just a legal process in which a will is reviewed and determined whether it is valid. And the first step of the legal process of administering the estate of a deceased person. And there's certain documents that you need to have. You definitely need to have the death certificate. So it takes a while to get the death certificate, but I guess a few weeks. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay. We always ask, and we have a list in our office, and you can, what we're going to do is I will send you all an electronic copy of all our handouts. That includes what is a will, documents you need when you probate, and you can have that electronic copy and at hand. So when your clients come to you and you say you have to go probate the will, et cetera, you don't have to go into what you need. You can just print it out for them. So I'll give you all access to that. So one of the reasons why you need to probate and open estates is when you do not probate or open an estate, you cannot get homeowners insurance. And that's a safety issue, especially for not just the person that is living in the house of a dead person name, but people that are next door. That is a safety issue, because if that house burns down, if that house has a sewage problem, a sewage rupture, that's going to affect you. So when people don't probate estates or don't get the necessary paperwork, they can't get homeowners insurance. Why? Because they're not the homeowner. They can't enter into payment plans for water or sewage or real estate taxes because they're not the owner. They can't get grants. And this is a big problem here in Philadelphia, because we have the largest, a large amount of homeowners here, but many of them are poor and lower working class. And there are grants that are available to help with the infrastructure of these old homes, like, electrical work, cement work, roof. They don't qualify for any of this money because the house is still in the dead person's name. And this is where it affects you. They can't sell the property because it's still in the dead person's name. This is why they need to come and probate. This is why you all need to get familiar with that So when your clients do come, you won't be, scrambling. You want to get to sell, you want to be of service to them. And by having access to this paperwork, and I'm giving access to people, it'll make it smoother for your clients. They can't get a mortgage, and they can't even work with the bank to fix an unpaid mortgage. In other words, the client, and this is what I'm trying to tell banks to get maybe in the business of, when they issue mortgages, that they recommend to people to make a will. So just in case you die while still paying a mortgage, you can still, somebody in the family, like the executor that you leave, can still negotiate to take over the payments, to continue the payments so they can own the home. So here's the documents that you need when you want to probate. Of course, the original death certificate, the original will. If you don't find the original will, just bring the copy down, and then, I would have to approve it. A valid photo ID, and you have to be, like I said, the administrator or the executor. You have to be one of those people, and you have to prove that you are the executor by way of your ID, and you have to have the estimate value. And when they say estimate value for the house, it is the house that's in the BRT. It's the house that the city lists as how much it's worth, not how much is, actually worth or with potentially worth. They go by the BRT. And then you have to have a probate fees. And probate fees is between $300 and $400, depending on how large the estate is. But the average is about $300 to $500. Some additional requirements may be asked, may have to, if you say you're married, a marriage license, a divorce decree. And by the way, since we're talking about marriage, since 2005, January the 2nd of 2005, there is no longer common law marriage in the state of Pennsylvania. January 2nd, 2005, no common law. Now, if you can come in my office and prove that you were married or were living as married couples before that time, and it's kind of difficult to prove, but I have approved several before January 2005, it is easier. And that's why we tell people to make a will, because living together or cohabitating together as partners or boo or whatever is not going to make you the legal next of kin, and you will not be able to if there's no will, you will not be able to inherit any of those legal assets of the person that died. So I always want to tell people that. And also renunciations. Renunciations is when you don't leave a will and you want to be the administrator of the will. Say, for instance, somebody comes and say, hey, I want to sell my mom's house. It's just me and my sister. And what we're going to ask when they come and request to be the administrator of will, we're going to ask them to have the sister sign a renunciation. And the renunciation is not signing over her rights. Tiana, could you cut your, okay. Thank you, this is distracting. The renunciation is just giving the other sister permission to represent the estate as the administrator of the estate. And this is where the biggest problem that come in when people come in and they're fighting is because one of the relatives, hypothetically, if it's 4 sisters, and 2 of the sisters, agreed that, one of the sisters is going to be the administrator. And then they, we said, well, you got to, in order to be the administrator, you have to get your sisters to agree that they have to agree for you to be the administrator. And so you'll go and say, I need you to sign this renunciation. And a lot of people's like, what is a renunciation? Like, they don't want to sign renunciation. It's not signing over your rights to any part of the being a beneficiary or any asset. Is just signing your right to give your sister the permission to be the administrator, which means the person that's going to take care of the business. And you may need certified court decrees, but that's depending on how sound your will is. But if your will is sound, you won't need to have to bring all that other stuff. I talked to you about tangle titles, and I wanted to tell you all I started a program called Probate Deferment Initiative, where the tangle title is a property title that has not been updated to reflect new ownership. In other words, it's still in a dead person name. So, you can't do anything, like all the things that I told you before, that you can't do anything. You can't sell it. Homeowners insurance you can't get. You can't negotiate it. You can't negotiate anything. It's just, dead property or dead capital. So some of the reasons why we have tangled titles is not just a property owner dies without leaving a will. A property owner dies and leaves a will that names a new owner, but it wasn't transferred. A fraudulent deed is recorded, and in Philadelphia that was happening an awful lot. A rent-to-own agreement goes wrong. Property is just abandoned. Like, we have hundreds of properties sitting in that land bank. And I mean, how do properties just end up in a land bank? Because it was abandoned. Why was it abandoned? Well, I would guess now, based on some of my research, is, people died and the neighbors didn't know who their next of kin was, or they didn't know that they didn't know that how to transfer the wealth, so they couldn't fix up the house, they couldn't do anything, it just sat there. And so that's why we had so many abandoned houses and through the Neighborhood Transformation Initiative. And we still have abandoned houses, and we still have a lot of people that are sitting in houses that they believe they own, and they don't own it because it's still in the dead person name. And then lastly, the title change is not properly recorded. I always recommend that you go to an attorney or somebody that specializes in title changes, because a lot of people make those mistakes and then they end up in tangled titles. Another thing I wanted to let you all know too, the Recorder of Deeds, Commissioner Jim Leonard created a program called Fraud Guard. And I would recommend for you all to bring him on to one of your breakfast chats. He created a program called Fraud Guard where you would register your house or houses in the system, in his Fraud Guard system. So if ever anybody ever touches your title or whatever, you will get a notice within 2 weeks that somebody, and it may be you, but you're going to get the notice, so it can avoid people from stealing other people's property. So I think that's a good program, and I see a lot of people are using that. So I can get you his phone number too if you wanted him to come over, because he's very good as well. Okay, and reasons why you should remedy tangled titles. So you can get access to equity in the property. So you can pass the title down to your heirs. So you can be allowed to participate in maintenance program. But I had one guest on, and he got his whole house rewired. Cement, he had the line, the sewage line, all of this was free because he qualified for it, and the government had these programs. It prevents mortgage foreclosure, definitely. When you don't pay those taxes or can't pay those taxes, you're eventually going to go into the sheriff's cell. And then it avoids the defects. And I was telling you to sign up to the Fraud Guard notification system by the Recorder of Deeds. So here's some ideas. You get some ideas of where the tangled titles are, mainly of where they are. And I recommended you all read the Pew Charitable Trust, that study, and this is from the study, and look at where they are. They're north, upper north, south, West Philly. Hold on for those are the areas where the tangled titles are. The darker the area, that's where they are. Those are where they're concentrated in. North Philly, West Philly, Southwest Philly, Upper North Philly. The lighter the area, the least likely where they are. So it's mostly in the poor Black and brown neighborhoods. This is where these areas are. This is where we identified the tracks of where they are. So this is why we were, concentrating on these areas to educate them. At least the less education you have, the more likely Black and brown people are more likely not to have wills as well. So it's a big problem here in Philadelphia. And by the way, if you ever wanted to know what they called it in other states, they call it air property. And we call it tangled titles here in Philadelphia. But air property mainly, the tracts are different. Like down south, it's like acres of land. So they just call it different, something different. So there was a study that came out by city controller, and she in 2021, the same year that the second study from the Pew Charitable Trust, and she identified Rebecca Reinhardt, by the way, when she was city controller, she identified where the shooting victims by zip code, and is a direct correlation with the tangled titles. And that's what I was saying, that, if we really are serious about solving or making our areas and communities more safe and viable, I think we need to continue to address this issue. It's a direct correlation. If you take and overlap these maps, you'll see where those shooting victims is, and the crime is directly in the areas of where those tangled titles are. And this is by race and ethnicity. You all should read this study. It just really tells the story of A Tale of Two Cities. And I always believe that if we are really serious about safety and crime and homelessness, then we should address this. And it shouldn't just be addressed by a register of wills. It's not just a city issue. I think it's a state and federal issue as well. So my PDR program, Probate Deferment Initiative, I created it because when I was campaigning, the community legal organizations like Philadelphia VIP, Community Legal Service, Christian Legal Clinics, and we'll give you the list because that comes with that list of the digitized flyers that I'm gonna send you. They are helping people get out of the tangled titles and free of charge. But this enables individuals who can't afford to pay the probate fees because they said that the probate fees, they couldn't afford it, and so I started this program, and we don't waive the fees unless you can prove you're extremely poor. And we'll waive them, but we defer the fees. So when the house is sold, there's a lien, so we'll get the money back. But we partner with the recorder deeds, and he actually waives the title transfer fees. But the money, the expense of the problem mainly is not so much the fees, is more of the legal challenges. So if you have any clients that come in, make sure that you send them to our office to see if they qualify for our probate deferment initiative. And we refer them to the community legal organization, excuse me, and they will help them untangle these titles because it's real tedious legal. It's a lot of legal stuff that goes involved, and I believe that it really discourage people if you don't have the money or if you don't understand, the legal vocabulary, etc. So this program has been a signature program of mine. And last week, I signed my 50th deferral. Our 50th tangled title was untangled. And that's not, nowhere near close to the 10 to 14,000 titles that we have, which, by the way, I always say 10 to 14,000 families, but that's 50 families that now own their properties through my program. And so I'm happy to say that this program is working, and I'm happy that the city approved that budget. So that's what I just said. The probate fees are deferred. Thank you. They're deferred. There's a lien. Oh, and by the way, so many of the people at the 50, they just paid off the fee after it became untangled. But I want to shout out the Fair Housing Agency. They had gotten a grant from the state, and they paid off everybody's lien. So all the 50 properties that had the small liens on their properties was paid off by that agency or being paid off by the agency. But the legal assistance, normally the average home to be untangled is between like $7,000 to $9,000, and through the probate deferment initiative, it's free. And then, of course, the deed waiver by the recorder deeds, he's waiving that $275 free. So I'm really happy about that program. I'm happy that I partner with those legal agencies and we're working together. And as a result of just our advocacy from the Register of Wills, those community legal agencies was awarded $7.6 million under the Neighborhood Preservation Initiative from the city of Philadelphia. So they was able to hire more attorneys. So I'm proud of that part of my tenure that, I brought the attention of tangled titles because that's a crisis right now. That's the problem. But mainly I've been trying to educate people about the making a will. And as realtors, I think that should be, whatever your questionnaire, you ask people, do you own your home? Is the title in your name? And maybe you want to put the question, do you have a will? So people can just get an idea that Some of the main fees get paid. Yeah, yes, actually, yep. That's what I'm saying. The fees, they're getting paid. We're deferring them. So it's a small lien and you can just pay it off when you can. But also the transfer of the title is that he's waiving that. You don't have to pay that back. And then if you qualify for the legal assistance, you qualify for the legal assistance, that's free. That's free. And they're funded, they get their funding from us taxpayer by a grant, and they just was awarded an additional $7.6 million. They was only getting $1 million prior to, me getting elected. And then I just kept going up in front of city council and saying, hey, we got a crisis here. And so they awarded $7.6 million to those legal agencies that enabled them to hire more attorneys. And then also one of the things, like, people ask, well, prior to my election 4 years ago, we were sending like between 60 and $70 million to the state. And now it is 107. We're doing six figures now. And I do believe that has a lot to do with education. And that's why, I'm coming to you all, education, not just for your clients, but for you. So you can go teach your family, and you can go and tell your family to teach their family, and you can teach your clients and tell your clients to teach their family. And so we can all, it's easier, and it's easier for you all to sell these properties, Okay, so how do you qualify for the probate deferment initiative? So you can send your clients to us, and sometimes it's simple, the paperwork is simple. It's just like, it's not like it's like 4 or 5 generations deep. It's like, okay, my mom died, I want to sell a property, and it's just me and my brother. So then you come down and we'll show them how to do that. It's really simple. But sometimes it's not so simple. And so we will refer them to the probate deferment initiative. And these are the qualifications. You have to own the property, and there's only one property. You can't own like 5 or 6 properties. And you have to have, in your bank account, $1,000 or less, 200% or less of the federal poverty level. If you receive SSI, if you receive government assistance, or you can show proof of financial hardship. And if anybody wants to contact us, that is the phone numbers, 215-686-8278. That's the cell phone number. And you can email road.pdi@phila.gov. We will also forward this slideshow, and it's also recorded, so you all have that.
All right, Madam Register, that was a great presentation. Thank you for that, Willpower. Does anybody have any questions? We can take those right now. We have a little bit of time left on the clock.
Yeah. By the way, I come on every Sunday morning at 107.9. My show is called Willpower. And when you have a will, your family keeps the power. That's our logo, or our motto. But every Sunday morning at 7:30, if you're up getting ready for church, tune in. Any questions? I really appreciate this.
There we go. Check out that, scan the code.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Got a question. Go ahead. Fire away.
I'm going to say it because it's more complicated than writing it. My question is, I have a client who purchased a property a year ago, and we did it through a title company, but it still has not shown up in phila.gov as belonging to her. It was a deceased person, and it was being sold by her executor. Is that something I should direct her to your office to check out?
That's the Department of Revenue, and I understand it takes a while. It takes a while to flip it over, but it do, and it also takes a while for the title. Yes, and I've heard a lot of complaints about that, but you should contact the city. Actually, do me a favor. I'll get you the exact answer. Email me at rowonline@phila.gov. That's ROW online at ILA.gov. Tatiana, type that in the chat. Type everybody, because any questions you ever have for the Register of Wills, that's the best way to do it. We have like a 24-hour turnaround. Any legal questions, row online at phila.gov. And of course, you can email me directly, tracy.gordon@phila.gov. But that's TRACEY. Do not leave out the E, else I won't get it. But that's a good question, Deb. I get that question a lot, and mainly the answer is it takes a while. But you definitely need to keep checking on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Tracy,
Yes.
when will we get the electronic version of your talk today, your lecture?
Well, today, Tatiana, if you're still on, Tatiana, you still there, correct?
Yes, I'm here. I just am labeled as John right now. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Okay. Tatiana, you know the electronic copy of all our flyers? Can you send that over to
give her my info, laurahemphill.com.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
look, this is what we'll do, GPAR folks. So we are recording this video, and we will make sure that in that recording of this video, in the posting notes, it will have a link to this doc.
Exactly.
And then also too, every once in a while, we push out a message to our membership about our recordings. So we'll make sure that we have that link in there as well. So there'll be a couple different spots that we'll get that to everybody down the road.
Perfect.
It will be a
Tatiana, send it to Matt, and send that those flyers are, the flyers that we send out to everybody.
Will do.
And send it to Matt, and Matt will make sure y'all had a link. And please share that, because it's standard knowledge, and it's good for every realtor to have. So you won't have to, it's easier. It's really easy reading, and it explains to them all the documents they need. It's good to have. Anybody else?
GPAR email? A GPAR email then? We'll get this? A GPAR email?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Tracey, this is Emily Wang. Can you please share the website for the Tango title protection, please? Thank you.
Oh, go back, Tatiana, so she can see it. Because you can go on www.phila.gov/wills to get to our website. phila.gov/wills. That's where that's any questions you have about Tango titles, or PDI, is row.pdi@phila.gov, and then she'll answer that question. But any question you want about anything in the Register of Wills, anything, row online@phila.gov. Type that in the chat. I'll type it in the chat, or type that in the chat. But go back to the PDI so she can see that again. You flipped it too quick, Tatiana. But there it is. See that?
Thank you.
That's the public deferment email. And then any other question about anything that you have about probate, how to order a marriage license, how to order your mother's marriage records, how to order anybody's will, because wills are public, so it's not private. So if you want a copy of Jerry Babbitt's will or whatever, we just had his will too. His will was quite big. Anybody's will is public. You can get it from row.online@phila.gov, and they'll tell you everything you need to know.
I do have a question about when you mentioned the helping to get how like the homes up to code as long as they are probated. What are the names of those programs?
It's called Basic System Repairs. Google it. Basic System Repair. That'll take you right to that website, and it'll tell you the eligibility. Please let people know. At this point, I heard it's not even a waiting list. And I know a lot of people are getting water heaters, windows, electrical work, chimney liners, all kinds of things. And it's not low income, like the income barrier, I mean, the income requirements, they raised it now. It's not that you got to be like dirt poor. Working class people and moderate income people qualify for that. It depends on how many people are living in the house, but you have to own the property. That's how we're finding out, the tangle titles, because people are trying to get the basic system repairs, and they saying, well, you don't own the property. So you can't get any repairs. You can't get a homeowner's insurance because you don't own it. You can't sell it, can't pass it down, can't get home equity loans. You don't own the property.
And also, again, the website to look up wills.
Oh, so our website is www.phila.gov/wills. That goes directly to our website, and it'll tell you everything, what to do, who department to go to, and all that. If you have a question, roll online at phila.gov, and they will send your question directly to the department, and they will get directly in contact with you, either by email or if you leave your phone number. And then we in room 180 at City Hall. Come in. We have a first time in Philadelphia history, I created a outreach department, and you can come get physical copies of all those flyers. If you came to our office, you can say, look, I need a bundle. I want to put these in my office, and you can come get those copies of the wills. The 8 components of a will, that we have that as a flyer. Matter of fact, also, I just put out my 4-year term report. If you go on roll online at phila.gov and request one, we'll mail it to you. And then you'll be able to, see all the programs that we have and all of achievements that, we've made in my tenure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What was that room number again?
So City Hall room 180.
Okay, thank you.
You come in and you sign it, and then the across the hall is where my outreach department is. Right there, down there, you come down there, it's nice down City Hall, and then they got all the Christmas shop. Stop by our office and tell them to direct you to the outreach. And you go into the outreach department, and all those flyers that we're going to send to you electronically, get physical copies of them, and then just hang them up around your work area, so you'll have them, you'll be like, okay, call this number, call that number, and then you'll be able to, here's this legal senior law project. They do. A matter of fact, I meant to tell you that if you qualify, they do wills for free. So when y'all sell property, I mean, I would hope that you will say, hey, now that you bought this property, you want to protect your generational wealth, you need to make a will. And if they they have agencies for seniors that they actually do the will for them for free. And if you low income, and that's another part of the probate deferment initiative, once they get the title out of the name of the dead person and get it into the person, the new title owner, they make the will for them, so it won't be repetitive. Like we gotta get out of this. Like there were rules, it's rules governing how to transfer wealth, and in Philadelphia, for some reason or another, people didn't even know that this office existed. And this is what I've been doing all along, because when people are educated, it's going to be easier to sell property or buy property. All these stumbling blocks simply because people didn't understand that they need to make a will to protect their generational wealth, and make it easier for your heirs to be able to get access to your assets.
All right. So one last push here on Friday, Madam Register. I'm not sure if she's going to be there, but she'll definitely have staff there.
Oh yeah.
At our general membership meeting. So you'll have direct access. She will have some of these materials there with her team, and we'll be open for questions. We'll have breaks so you can catch her or some of her dedicated staff either before, in the middle, during a break, or catch up at the end. So we're really pleased that she will be manning one of our tables there. So
I look forward to meeting you all, and I hope it's making it
another
easier.
pitch.
I hope it's making this easier for you all, because when I talked to you all the other day, I was really serious about the fact is, y'all livelihood depends on, selling and people buying property, and this barrier of this tangled title barrier, or the fact that they don't understand that they have to get they have to have the paperwork done so they can get the asset in their name. It makes it much easier for it's going to make it much easier for you all and them. So yeah, I'll see you all this week. So when is it coming up?
Friday morning, right? 8:00.
Oh, okay. I'll go to bed early.
All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Madam Register, and your staff for running the slideshow for us. Everybody keep warm out there, and we'll see you.